Welcome in to Warchant TV. Always a pleasure to have you on board here with us on warchant.com and Warchant TV. Don't forget, as we get going here, to like and subscribe so that you get the latest on all the new videos post and you get the latest content right here on Warchant TV. And as we get going, it's that time of year. That's a reason to get your juices flowing, everybody. That's right. You know, it's the off season, but it's also time to get a little excited about the upcoming football season. It's the annual Top 40. We are the OGs when it comes to this thing, posting our first ever Top 40 list way back just before the 2013 season. And as I introduce this panel, you'll see the names up there. On this video, Gene Williams, founder and administrator of Warchant.com, managing editor Ira Schafel, Tom Lang, of course, the director of content here at Warchant, executive producer, the wildly popular Jeff Cameron Show. I'm the host of said wildly popular show, Jeff Cameron. And that list, put it up there again, Tom. I know, there it is. Look at that list, guys. My goodness gracious.
Looking back,
the Heisman Trophy winner at 5.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking back, Jameis might have been a little undervalued.
But look at 1 through 4, Ira. Are there any slackers in that list?
No.
They're all ridiculous studs.
Every one of those players were great. We will not be able to say that about today's list, the top 40 that we introduced this time around.
That's a great way to get this going, Jeff.
But let me tell you something. The list is better. And all jokes aside, we were just talking off the air as we were getting started here. I love this assignment, and I kind of joke about it tongue-in-cheek time to time on the air about the fact that it could be depressing. There have been a few years when we've had to do this where you get outside that top 10 and you're like, slim pickings here. It's going to be tough. But this year, I saw the email come in, Gene. It was time for our top 40. There are 7 Warchant members that voted on all of this. Let me get this out there just so everybody understands how this gets done. First of all, you got to know that with this list, it's based on the potential impact for this upcoming season, contributions for the upcoming 2022 season. This is not based on the long-term prospects of a player. It is not based on their NFL potential or any of those things. It's just about how they're going to impact the 2022 season. And so it is that that is the original criteria, and we've stuck with it now for almost 10 years. It's a good list. It's a fun thing to do, and it's a fun exercise to see the disagreements and the agreements. Now, what we always like to do when we start out here is show you first and foremost who just missed, who narrowly missed out on being on this very prestigious Warchant.com top 40 list. And if you would, Tom Lang, post those names. Not to shame, but just to stoke the fire a little bit, encourage debate perhaps, right? There you go. There you see the names on your screen. Leonard Warner, Jerry and Jones, Tate Rodemaker didn't make it. Wow. That's primarily due to Ira Schafel. I'll get into that in a moment. Ryan Fitzgerald, Alex Mastromano, Keyshawn Helton amongst the names you see there of guys that missed out. I should mention that let's see, Kentron Portier did not make it either. Corey was devastated to find that out. He had him very high on the list. But there are some guys. Ira, I want to pivot to you right off the bat. No Tate Rodemaker on your list, and so I'm going to hold you responsible for him not cracking the top 40. I mean, I think you would admit that if anything is to happen to Jordan Travis, Tate Rodemaker would prove to be very, very important. But you say, no matter, he's not on my list.
Ain't nothing happening to Jordan Travis. That's why I'm not worried about it. Look, 2 things. Number one is we also I can also blame, didn't Austin and Aslan and Corey, they participated too. They're not here. We could blame them for this, but no, it's mostly my fault. I did not have Tate on my list, and it is because of last year. I felt like we all kind of chickened out or kind of went the easy route by having Mackenzie Milton and Jordan Travis both at the top of our list. Some of us had us 1 and 2. Some of us had them in the top 10 because we couldn't decide. We didn't know who was going to be the quarterback. Well, I know who the quarterback is. It's Jordan Travis, and I think he's going to stay healthy. I know nobody believes it, but I believe in Jordan Travis. He's going to stay healthy. Tate, you stand there, hold that clipboard, maybe get a little mop-up duty, but you're not one of the top 40 players this season.
We won't get into everybody who didn't make it. I thought Tate was the highest profile player that didn't make it, so we'll just conveniently move on in here. We won't hold your feet to the fire for too long on that for guys that didn't make the list. Let's look at the ones that did, and I want to start with that group of 31 through 40. And you should know, by the way, we're going to start this particular video series tonight, obviously, and you'll see this thing, and then you'll get another one over the days and weeks ahead. We'll break it all the way down to number one. So we'll start 31 to 40, for example, today. And then from there, you can be expecting more videos. So more reason, again, to like and subscribe. Lawrance Toafili, can we start there? Running back who can be dynamic, can be explosive. Gene, you and I have a big difference of opinion on this. So I'll just stay right here with you and note that I didn't have him on my list. Now, that is primarily because I think the impact of Trey Benson is going to be huge for this football team, and I only went 2 running backs deep, really. Toafili still hasn't put on the necessary weight to be a guy who's going to contribute a ton. I do think he'll catch some passes out of the backfield. I didn't have him on my list. People can get mad at me. I know a lot of people love Lawrance Toafili, and I'm rooting for him. He's a St. Pete kid, but I don't have him on my list. You had him at 22. Explain.
Yeah, I think we're all jaded from last season. I think it was against Jacksonville State when he had that ridiculous, it was like a 3rd and 1 or something, and he had a hole and went backwards.
Yeah.
And he lost his mojo after that. He was awful. You could tell he had no confidence. But it started to come back at the end of the season, and I remember him coming out of high school. He's a 4-star recruit. He's got a lot of talent. We saw against Clemson, he can break big plays. And I think with Mike Norvell over the years, he's always been a guy who's going to rotate quarterbacks. Chef, I'm with you, and I want to be a spoiler on Trey Benson. I think you and I are in the same opinion on that, how we have him ranked, and we'll see how that is later. But I really think this is going to be 3 backs are going to be getting a lot of the carries in his offense. And I think that Toafili has that talent and ability, and I thought he looked a lot better in the spring. I don't want to put too much weight on the spring, but I think good enough that he is worthy of top 40 accolades to get out there, because, again, he's going to be one of those 3. He's the guy that can bring us kind of a change of pace. He can break off some big plays. I think he's going to make enough contributions because of his talent that it's justified having him up, in my opinion. I think I had him as high as 22, but I think looking back, we're going to see he was pretty darn good. He's a lot better than he was last year.
Yeah, and I think in fairness, by the way, and I don't disagree with you on his explosiveness and his potential for the home run play, and I hope it happens. I'd like to see some consistency out of him. Again, I think he's the 3rd or 4th guy down the list in that running back room, which is a little bit deeper than we thought it was going to be, so I'm excited about that. I had him at just outside 40, at 40, 41. I just didn't fit him in, but I do think the potential is there. I hope you're right, Gene. I'll just say that. I hope you are right and that I am wrong. Tom, you didn't have Greedy Vance on your list. A lot of people were excited when he came in from Louisville. I think I know why you didn't have him on the list, but you're the only one who didn't. Aswan has him very high on the list. He's not here to defend himself. He can do that in a different video, but you're here. So I want to hear why it is that you thought Greedy Vance did not deserve to make this top 40.
Yeah, I don't know that his style is going to fit for the opening at the outside corner position. That's the only job that's available right now is outside corner. I think slot corner is going to be locked down with Kevin Noles. Now, my opinion could change if Kevin Noles slides outside and plays opposite of Duke Cooper, as an outside corner, because then Greedy Vance's game that's a little bit more physical, jammy with the line of scrimmage, I think would play better in the slot than it would away from the football. But just from what I saw in spring, I don't know that he is if I had to list the top 2 or 3 candidates to get the opening job right now, corner, it'd be Renardo Green. And, I mean, if you're really going to bring up Vance, he would be 3rd or 4th on that list to lock down those snaps. So he might be a rotational player, guys, but I don't see him being one of the first guys off the bench. I think by the middle or end of the season, you're going to have Azarie Thomas and maybe even Sam McCall in that conversation, but not Greedy Vance. I think he's a floor raiser and a depth player, but I don't know that he's going to be in the top half of this roster as an impact player.
Yeah, sneak peek to later in the video. You don't think Sam McCall is going to be anywhere near that field because you don't have him ranked. But that said, let's do this. Winston Wright. Ira, you love Winston Wright, and I thought Winston Wright was a massive pickup for Florida State. But very unfortunately, and at the time we thought maybe even tragically, we didn't think we were going to see Winston Wright be able to play wide receiver for this football team this year. He is the most accomplished of the wide receivers in the sense that this was a guy starting in the Power 5, producing numbers on the football field consistently. I go to him now because I didn't have him in there. Gene, Austin, other members here of the staff didn't have him in there. You have him as high as in the top 20 at number 18. Look, I get why you would. You must be hearing good things. I'm not telling you to go on the record here. I am saying, you really think, how many games do you think Winston Wright's going to play for this football team because you got him in the top 20?
Yeah, no, that is the deal. I mean, I think he is going to play. I think he's going to play 3/4 of the season. Okay. I think he'll play in the first. I think he'll play in the first month. I think the rehab has gone way better than I expected. And that I was with Gene early on reported that it sounded like it was going to be much longer. I know that Jeff and Tom, that's what you guys were hearing as well. I saw him on crutches a good 2.5 months after the accident. I thought, man, there's no way he's going to play this season. But from what I understand, he was able to bear weight much quicker than they expected. And every step of the way, he's been much quicker. And yeah, man, I think he's going to play. I think he may play 9-10 games. And if that's the case, I think he's their number one receiver. Micah Pittman may end up being that guy overall. But I like Winston Wright a lot, and I think it's worth the risk to put him in the top 20.
If I can chime in here, Jeff, it seems like every year we get one of these players that gets hurt that's supposed to return at some point during the season. It just never happens. I mean, we all remember Emmett Rice. He was supposed to come back in midseason, then it kept put it off. And look, I will not discount this. After I saw what happened with Cam Akers last season in the NFL from the horrific Achilles injury, and he comes back the same season 6 months later when they're like it's like 2 years usually for an injury like that. The way medicine is these days, anything is possible. But on these kind of injuries where they're not due to come back, it's going to be over a year since he played football when he's going to step foot on the field. I have a hard time believing he's going to contribute. But, man, again, like you said with me before, I hope Ira's right. If he's right and he get back on the field mid-late September, absolutely 100%, he could be a major contributor on this team.
Well, and that's a guy that everybody's rooting for to get back. There's no doubt. I mean, we root for all these kids to do well. We all do selfishly, and also just personally, everybody's rooting for people to do well in life. But when a kid has an injury, no fault of their own, and this was in his mind a money year, you just hope like heck he can get back out there and produce for his own sake, and certainly it helps the team.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is the difference between, again, like an Emmett Rice, is a lot of times to me, ligament damage is a different deal. I don't believe that's the case in this situation. And so I think, again, once he's cleared, I think he's going to be good to go. Now, granted, to Gene's point, nobody at Florida State has seen Winston Wright play full speed. At the beginning of spring, he was still rehabbing from something else. Then he got the injury. So, whenever he becomes healthy, those will be the first reps he gets at Florida State. I think he's much better than anything else they have.
Well, there's a theme here then as I bring it to the next player, and that is why some of us on the Warchant staff didn't have Winston Wright on this list and didn't have Dimitri Emmanuel, for example, on this list. Now, I know that Gene, you and I are the only two that did vote for him. The rest of the staff did not. I don't think it's because those of us that don't think he can play or that he's a bad take for the university. But when you haven't seen a kid play and he wasn't here in the spring, you don't know, is he a backup? You can't get a sense, are they going to count on him to start? I guess I would ask you two why you had him in there. Is it because you think he is going to be a starter on the offensive line with Dimitri Emmanuel, or do you think it's because he's going to be the first guy off the bench and he's going to contribute at a place that doesn't have a lot of depth, frankly? Either one of you can go with that one.
I'll go real quick, and I know Ira had him ranked highest than anybody, so I'll do real quick. I got 3 points why. Look, I think he might be your sixth man off the bench, honestly, and that's why I had him in the 30s. But that's why I think if you're going to be a six man off the bench, how often does Florida State keep 5 healthy offensive linemen for an entire season? It ain't going to happen. He started at left tackle, he started at right guard, he started at left guard. I mean, he started everywhere along the line. So any injuries other than maybe center, he might be that guy off the bench. He started 25 games in his career. 12 of those were with Alex Atkins. So he knows him. I'm sure he was a big part of the reason why he transferred to Florida State. I got to think he's got experience. I got to think Alex Atkins has confidence in this guy. I think he's going to be your sixth man to contribute. That's why he's going to contribute. Is he going to be a starter? Maybe not. But having that valuable depth, I think he will contribute enough this season that he's worthy of being in the top 4. Now, I know Ira had him actually pretty high, so maybe he thinks he's a starter. So I'll let Ira follow up on this.
Well, I just kind of got back into that same rut that I was talking about earlier with the quarterbacks last year. Is I just had a bunch of those offensive linemen that I don't know how that's going to sort out, kind of in the early 20s, because I didn't want to put any of them in the top 20, but I also didn't want to have them too far down because they are going to be starting offensive linemen. My guess is he's going to be battling with a guy like Darius Washington. One of them may start in Bless Harris. One of them may start at right tackle. One of them may start at right guard. I don't know who's going to win the job, but I think if he doesn't win the starting job, I think there's a decent chance he will be one of the starting 5. But if he doesn't, I agree. I think he's going to be that 6th guy. And the way offensive linemen get banged up, I think he's a guy that could potentially play tackle or guard, which means he could play several spots on the line. And I think he's going to be very valuable to that offensive line. To your point, again, Alex Atkins brought him in. It's a guy he's coached before. I think they're expecting pretty good things from him.
So earlier in this video, when we were talking about guys that I had ranked or you didn't have ranked. Or Tom Lang doesn't have him ranked, but I've got him ranked the highest of anybody on the staff, apparently, in Sam McCall, who I like a lot. And I'll tell you, I will say this. I think all of us would agree Azareye'h Thomas of the new corners is the guy that seems to be the most polished, right? He's the guy that seems to be like, we can kind of think that he's going to play a significant amount of snaps, maybe even by the season's end, he could be a starter. We think he's that kind of fluid and that kind of talented. But Florida State hasn't had the kind of talent that both these individuals have in a long time in the secondary. They've got length. They understand football. There's good football instincts there. You already saw that. And I think Sam McCall plays with his hair on fire. He's tenacious. He'll hit you. He's got a nasty streak to him that this defense is going to need. Now, the only question I have for him is how quickly can he learn this defense? You got to be in the right spot. We want you to play fast. We want you to play nasty, but I need you to know where the hell to be. So monitor Sam McCall's growth here throughout the fall as we get set for the season, because talent-wise, he is elite. And I think they hit on those two guys big time. That's why I had Sam McCall in there. I don't know. Tom, you didn't. Corey and Aslan aren't here. I know they didn't. But I think you also believe Sam McCall has a chance to crack this list. I mean, after all, I had him in the top 30, but I don't think he's too far off from being in everybody's top 40.
He was 41st on my list. And I'll footnote too really quick on Dimitri Emmanuel. I did have Emmanuel in the top 40 for the same reasons the other guys do. I think that, that's going to be a 6-man shuffle, and he gives you depth to where you could play Darius Washington and or Bless Harris at tackle. So I think that's why you have him there. But the corner situation, I would say, again, if you look at that defensive backfield, safeties are settled. You like Akeem Dent. Certainly Jamie Robinson was last year's leading tackler on the defense, so he's locked in at one position. Amarian Cooper, Kevin Noles. So who's going to play in the other spot? I think it might be Renardo Green or it might be Azareye'h Thomas. It's just, I don't know that there's going to be a ton of rotation amongst the corners. I could be wrong, and there has to be a fourth guy on the field against a lot of opponents and how college football likes to spread out the ball these days. But I just don't know that McCall is kind of like the Greedy Vance discussion. I think they're going to be about even preseason in terms of where they are in the depth chart by the end of the year. It's possible that he could play Jeff. I agree. I mean, Amarian Cooper didn't have a spring last year, right, and he was a starter by November. So there is precedent for this. I just think, again, there's too many bodies in front of him on the depth chart to put him in the top 40 just yet.
Yeah, I was thinking on his talent there.
And can I add one more thing? The other thing that you need to think about with Sam McCall, I think in Azareye'h Thomas, is special teams is a big part of the game. This is a special teams group that has not made a lot of impact plays the last couple of years. Those two guys, John Papuchis, you got to figure out a way to get those two guys on the field and let them make plays. Shaheem Brown is a guy last year that redshirted. I felt like should have been on some of those coverage units. You need more guys that can make plays. So those guys could make an impact on special teams as well.
I agree. You bolstered my point, Ira. That's why it was a good one. Really quickly, really quickly, I should note for everybody out there, again, a series of videos here breaking down our top 40. Tonight we did 31 through 40. Ira's got an article coming up on warchant.com that accompanies this very thing. You're going to want to read this. And as you want to read all the things that Ira writes, of course you do. That'll be on warchant.com. And I look forward to reading it as well, because this is a fun thing. This is the kickoff to the season, guys. This builds us to the ACC kickoff. This saves us. This gets us to where we need to be. We can start kicking around players and who we like, who we don't, who's going to be a surprise. And I know everybody on the boards, they interact. Make sure you do that. We want your feedback as well on warchant.com. And again, like and subscribe this video. Now, listen, the next one, this will be fun. Number 21 through 30, right? There's a true freshman and a transfer that show up on this list next. So this is fun and intriguing. Don't forget, like and subscribe, I should say, to Warchant TV so that you get the latest with all of these. That's it, guys. Anybody want to add anything to this? This is fun. We do it every year. We've been doing it the longest of anybody covering Florida State. Started way back in 2013. Gene, I remember doing this with you. And DC Reeves, our old friend that worked here at Warchant. So good times, man. And it's always, again, kind of the precursor to the ACC kickoff. I know football's on the minds of many.
Yeah, I got one more point. I don't know that we've mentioned this yet or wiped up a graphic, but folks, if you can like this video and subscribe to Warchant TV, that'd be great. I know we haven't mentioned it yet, but that would be a great thing. So help us out. Thank you.
Do the right thing.
Yep.
Ira, would you like to tell anybody to like and subscribe?
I'm doing this. I'm showing him that thumb down there. You want to hit that thumb thing right below Ira, right down there.
If you haven't done it yet, maybe think about subscribing to this channel and liking the video.
Subscribing. Hit that bell. There's a bell. You want to ding the bell.
Ding the bell, send a mass email to your workers, to everybody that you've ever known. All
Tweet
of
it.
Play
put it on TikTok, put it everywhere.
Refer a friend.
Video, put it on a loop and leave the room. It's
Yep.
fine. Just keep it running all day long. It's good for your pets. It's good for your friends to pass by. All that good stuff. Until next time, obviously, that's Gene, that's Tom, that's Ira, and I'm Jeff. And we thank all of you for watching the video and subscribing to warchant.com. Make sure you send it along, and we'll be back with another video real soon. And don't forget about Ira's piece on warchant.com that accompanies all of these. Be good, everybody, and go Noles.